And you're seeing the results of that with more Republicans turning out than Democrats in that first week. But earlier this month, you had a really interesting piece, and you reported on the younger voters in Nevada, those younger than 35. They make up a quarter of the electorate, and you wrote this. In a 50-50 presidential election, the vote from those younger than 35 could be more meaningful than ever, but campaigns have to get them to turn out. What does that look like? How are each campaigns turning them out?
Yeah, I think this is a real difference from 2020 when so much of the organizing was digital. Now, the Democrats have told me they're all in on events. So they're having happy hours where they bring surrogates. They're having sort of parties at locations near early voting locations to try to really encourage people to make it fun to turn out and come out. The Republicans have also been invested. Former President Trump has appeared on all these podcasts, had influencers out at rallies. They're really trying to target young men in particular, I think, is the demo that they're looking at. They've been tabling at college campuses at UNLV. Turning Point, that's Charlie Kirk's organization, has a big presence at University of Nevada up in Reno. So there's a real effort by both campaigns to engage younger voters. Traditionally, right, they do break for Democrats. And I think Democrats really want to ensure that they have good turnout to make sure that people who are left-leaning do turn out for the race and don't just stay at home. Whereas Republicans, I think, are trying to find persuadable young men in particular who they would call low propensity voters, people who don't vote every cycle, but when they do, are inclined towards Republicans, and try to make sure that those younger voters are voting for Trump.
A happy hour is always fun. A free event is always fun. But when it comes down to those issues, what issues matter most to those younger voters? What is going to really propel them not only to go to the happy hour, grab a drink, but then go on November 5th or participate in early voting?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you talk to younger voters, obviously they're very passionate about issues like the war in Gaza, right? That's been a huge focus on the left when you see these college campus protests and frustration with the Democratic Party over that. But I think one thing that goes under discussed is that young voters' issues are often the same as everyone else, and maybe even more so on the economy. It's young voters who are worried about if they're ever going to be able to afford a house, what kind of job they're going to get after college, what their wages are in those first, second jobs that they have. And so those are huge issues. Abortion is really big among younger women in particular. That is younger women are the group of people that are most affected, right, by abortion policy. It's protected in Nevada, but it's obviously a huge national issue. And so I think it's often the same as the broader electorate, with I think a bit more of a concern on issues like foreign policy. And then I think one thing that hasn't been discussed a ton is you will hear about climate change come up with younger voters, and concern about increased. Las Vegas has a lot of is one of the most polluted cities. There's a lot of rising temperatures and experiences like that, heat waves, wildfires up in the north. And so that's something that you hear young voters bring up too.
When you look at the Silver State as a whole, which campaign has the better ground game? Are you seeing more Harris signs than Trump? Are you seeing one campaign really dominate opposed to the other? Or does it depend? Rural areas more Republican. You're seeing more Harris campaigners in the cities.
I mean, this is true, I think, of most election cycles in Nevada. The Democrats are better organized. They always are. Harry Reid built an incredible ground game there that's outlasted him. All of the unions will come out in Las Vegas and knock over 1 million doors. I went canvassing last week with some of the Teamsters just to see what it was like. They're, door knocking, doing phone calls, having events. They're, really energized. And they have to be, because typically in Nevada, Republicans do turn out at a higher rate. And so it's incumbent upon the Democratic Party and all of their allies to try to get people to turn out, to try to get, all of those in Las Vegas, working class voters who work off schedule can be hard to pin down and hard to track down, make sure that they vote and get to the polls. Donald Trump has outsourced a lot of the ground game in Nevada to various PACs, including one run by Elon Musk that we saw reports in The Guardian that there's been people who are, signing up to take those shifts canvassing and don't do it, and they're being flagged for sort of suspicious activity. Elon Musk's PAC did hire Chris Carr, who's a veteran political operative in Nevada. He worked for Governor Lombardo. Way back in the day, he worked for President Bush and helped him win in 2004. So, there are some competent people there, but in general, a lot of it has been outsourced, and we don't, when you look on the ground, there's way more Democratic canvassers, phone bankers, all of that out there engaging in the ground game.
And as a correspondent in Nevada, what are you specifically looking out for between now and November 5th?
I think we're going to continue to look at those early vote numbers. We're going to see between mail and the second week if Democrats can try to break into Republicans' lead. If Republicans have a lead going into Election Day, I think it's going to be pretty hard for Harris to turn that around unless she wins by significant margins with nonpartisan voters, right? That's the big question right now. And so, yeah, what we still need to find out, right, is who are nonpartisans voting for? Is it a traditional election where each candidate is going to win about 90% of their party, or are we going to see registered Democrats voting for Trump or registered Republicans, which the Harris campaign has made a huge effort to invest in, voting for Harris? And then the other thing is, with early voting going so well for Republicans, are they cannibalizing at all any of their traditional election day vote, or are these low propensity voters or new voters? And we can get some of that data, I think, in the coming days and have a clearer picture of that. But the main question for me, which we won't know until Election Day, is who are nonpartisans voting for?
Well, certainly a lot of questions that need to be answered, and I hope you come back on when the answers become more clear. Gabby, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.